When you think of crystals, what comes to mind? Probably something ancient, right? Mystical stuff. But what if I told you that the future of technology, memory, and maybe even consciousness is being carved from them as we speak? In this explainer, we're going to dive into a pretty wild idea that we aren't just stepping into a new crystal age, we're remembering an old one.
So, let's just jump right in with a question for you. What on earth could your high-tech smartphone possibly have in common with some sacred ancient temple? The answer is probably not what you think, and it really gets to the very heart of how our world and maybe our entire universe is put together.
Well, the answer is actually hiding in plain sight. It's literally in your pocket right now.
And no, I'm not being metaphorical here, this is a straight-up fact. Our entire digital civilization, from the satellites circling the globe to the watch on your wrist, it's all built on a foundation of crystals.
And the king of this whole crystal kingdom? It's quartz. But why quartz? Well, get this. When you pass a tiny bit of electricity through a sliver of quartz, it vibrates at this insanely precise, super stable frequency, exactly 32,768 times per second. That steady pulse, it's the literal heartbeat keeping our whole digital world ticking along perfectly.
The science behind this has a cool name, piezoelectricity. The Curie brothers figured this out way back in 1880. And the principle is actually pretty elegant. You squeeze a crystal, it creates an electric charge. You twist it, it pulses. It's this amazing ability to turn physical stress right into electricity that makes crystals the perfect little engines for our most advanced tech.
Okay, but keeping time? That's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, crystals are at the heart of something truly revolutionary, a way to store our memories forever.
Right, so we're all used to storing data on flat stuff, like a CD or a hard drive, right? A surface. But this new tech is called volumetric photonic storage. It writes the information inside the crystal. It uses the whole 3D space to pack in data in what scientists are calling 5D. Think layers, angles, the way the light itself is oriented. It's just an insane amount of information.
So how in the world does that work? Well, first, scientists blast these super-duper short laser pulses, we're talking a quadrillionth of a second long, into a piece of quartz. These little blasts create tiny 3D data points they call voxels deep inside the crystal. And then they just keep layering millions and millions of these things. It's kind of like stacking a million DVDs worth of data into one tiny space.
But here's the kicker. How long does this data actually last? This is where it gets absolutely wild. Researchers over at the University of Southampton figure the lifespan of these crystal archives is around 13.8 billion years. Yeah, you heard that right. That's the entire age of the known universe. We're literally talking about creating a permanent record of all of humanity, etched in light inside a stone.
And this is where things take a really interesting turn. This technology sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But it makes you wonder. What if this isn't some brand new invention? What if it's a rediscovery? What if we're just finally catching up to something we once knew?
And that brings us to the stories of a lost civilization, a place where, if you believe the mystics, the line between science and spirit just didn't exist. We're talking about Atlantis.
Now, the source material we're looking at draws heavily on the visions of the American mystic Edgar Cayce. In his psychic readings, he kept describing this central Atlantean technology he called the Firestone. He claimed it was this massive crystal generator that could harness cosmic energy, power entire cities, and even interface with human consciousness. For him, it wasn't just a machine, it was an instrument.
So this is the moment. This is where our two stories, the sterile, hypermodern lab and the mystical ancient temple, are about to crash into each other in a seriously mind-bending way.
Okay, check this out. The source material lays out some pretty incredible parallels. Modern science talks about piezoelectricity. Ancient wisdom traditions spoke of crystal resonance. We're developing volumetric storage. The legends describe the Firestone. Our physicists are exploring quantum memory. Mystics called it the Akashic Records, this idea of a universal field of all information. What our engineers call modulation, their priests called attunement. Are these just a bunch of weird coincidences? Or, as the source suggests, are we just describing the exact same principles with different words, separated by thousands of years?
So, if we just entertain this idea of convergence for a second, what does that actually mean for our future? What kind of world might we be building as we rediscover this knowledge?
Well,
The vision laid out in our source material is pretty epic. We're talking about a planetary energy grid based on crystal resonance, just like Tesla dreamed of, a world where communication could become telepathic and healing is done with frequency. It even predicts a whole new kind of artificial intelligence, crystalline intelligence, that doesn't just calculate, but actually resonates with human consciousness and emotion.
Ultimately, the book's core idea is that we are standing at a precipice, creating a technological echo of Atlantis. We are rediscovering an immense power, and with that comes a profound choice. The legend says Atlantis fell because its technology was used without wisdom, and now we're facing that very same test.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. As we're here, etching our data into light and building machines that can learn and maybe even feel, are we really inventing something brand new? Or are we simply, after all this time, just remembering how to listen to the stone?